In my opinion, Naruto's a three-part series and not a two-part series. Part 1 builds up to and ends with Sasuke going rogue. Part 2 builds up to the Akatsuki pursuing Naruto and ends when Naruto defeats Pain and the village finally embraces him. Part 3 builds up to the infinite Tsukuyomi and Naruto vs Sasuke and ends when Sasuke gives in to Naruto. The reason why I believe Part 2 should be split up is that the manga chapters split up pretty evenly right before the Kage summit. I also think that the overall stories are very different, since Part 2 is mostly about the Akatsuki and my Part 3 is mostly about the 4th Great Ninja War. In one of my older videos, I ranked the top 10 most powerful characters in Part 1 based on only the knowledge we had in Part 1. It's a video that allows us to look at what our perspective was back in the day, and so this video is the same to a lesser extent. I'll be ranking the top 10 characters before the Kage summit based on all the information we had just before the Kage summit. Just because someone is higher on this list doesn't mean that they can necessarily beat them on a one-on-one. It's more of an overall assessment of how powerful they are. So without further ado, let's start our trip to the past, beginning at number 10.
Third Kage?
At number 10 I have Sasori. Some of you may be shocked by this because he lost to Chiyo and Sakura, so that automatically makes him trash apparently. Those two are actually his perfect counter because Chiyo is a puppet master and Sakura had an antidote to his poison. He also lost that fight more than Chiyo and Sakura won it. What I mean by that is that he wasn't very serious in the beginning, and at the end, he lost because the mother and father puppet distracted him because he missed his parents. If it wasn't for this moment of weakness, Sasori would have killed Chiyo and then Sakura. Moving on from that though, Sasori has a lethal arsenal. Practically all of his attacks are drenched in poison that could paralyze you with just a small scratch. This poison is so complex that only people like Tsunade or Sakura could make an antidote for it. He also has the third Kazekage puppet, which can use the iron sand. This is the strongest form of magnet release, but it can't use massive amounts of it like Gaara or Raza can. It's not clear on how he killed the third Kazekage, so I'm not going to assume that he defeated him in battle. Sasori can also control 100 puppets at once, and he himself is a pretty dangerous puppet also. He is easily an Akatsuki level shinobi and worthy of being number 10 on this list. At number 9 I have Deidara. This may be seen as controversial, but I can explain. There's the myth that Deidara said Sasori is stronger than him, which I debunked in a previous video. I explained the context of that statement and how they would match up one-on-one. So if you want to know why I put Deidara over Sasori, look at that video. Anyway, just like Sasori, Deidara is an underappreciated character. This may be because he lost to heavy Sasuke, but that's actually impressive. Sasuke's lightning style counters his explosion release, and that's Deidara's entire arsenal. Despite that, Deidara gave Sasuke a tough fight and could have won at the end if Sasuke didn't make him rage quit life. He actually says that he has some detonating clay at the end of the fight when Sasuke ran out of chakra, but because Sasuke wasn't scared of Deidara, he decided to self-destruct instead. So he could have beaten Sasuke, but moving on from that, let's talk about how strong he is. He can use detonating clay to mold objects that can explode. This gives him the ability to fly, which makes him very difficult to reach. His C2 explosion is strong enough to destroy Sasuke's curse mark wing, and his C3 threatened to destroy the entire sand village. His C4 allows him to use nano explosives that can destroy opponents at the cellular level. This is one of the most overlooked abilities in the series because it is insanely hard to counter. For starters, you can't see the explosives unless you see chakra, so you wouldn't even know what was happening, and even if you did, the only way to disarm the explosives is running electricity through your body. The only person at that point in the series that could do that was Sasuke. Beyond that, Deidara is also very smart and utilizes his arsenal to its fullest potential. He's able to deal with some of Sasuke's counters after all, and Sasuke is one of the smartest characters in the series. So overall, Deidara can defeat people like Gaara and Sasuke, and is an Akatsuki level shinobi worthy of being number 9 on this list. At number 8, I have Sasuke. The reason why he's above Deidara is because being able to use Amaterasu would let Sasuke beat Deidara and not the other way around. Some people may feel like this is lowballing Sasuke, but what's above him is pretty powerful, so 8th is a fair ranking. Sasuke can use fire style and his lightning style is top tier. Chidori is lethal, and he can also use things like Chidori Stream and Chidori Spear, which could cut off a tail of the 8 tails cleanly. He can also use Kirin, which is strong enough to destroy the Uchiha hideout, and Itachi Susanoo, maybe even his Yatsumir too. He also has the Mangekyo Sharingan, with one eye using Amaterasu, and the other one being able to control it. Amaterasu was strong enough to defeat B, and if Sasuke hadn't have cut off B's tail, then B couldn't have substituted or whatever he did to survive. His Mangekyo Sharingan can also paralyze his opponents, so Sasuke's Genjutsu is also top tier. Sasuke is also very intelligent in battle and can read his opponents very well, and he also has incredible speed feats. Overall, Sasuke is a very well-rounded shinobi who has the capability of defeating the second strongest tailed beast. At number 7 I have Jiraiya. I don't think I have to justify myself on this one, so I'll just go right into it. Jiraiya is highly proficient in earth and fire style and can summon toads. That's not enough to put him in the top 10, but Sage Mode is. In Sage Mode, he becomes much more physically powerful, and his high chakra reserves also multiply. This allows him to create things like a Massive Rasengan, which is highly lethal. He also has Ma and Pa, who bring some jutsu to the table also. Specifically, their ability to sing. They can sing to disorient their opponents, and they have a paralysis genjutsu song that takes some time to take effect. This song was able to paralyze 3 paths of pain, so it's nothing to scoff at. Oh, and by the way, Jiraiya was able to defeat the human, animal, and Preda path on their home turf. The Preda and animal path were 2 of the best paths of pain, excluding the Diva path. Overall, Sage Mode puts Jiraiya in the top 10, and he's also a Hokage level shinobi easily. At number 6 I have Killer B. B is the perfect Jinchuriki of the 8 tails, so that is why he is so high on this list. But he also has some other impressive qualities. He can use multiple swords at the same time, and was able to defeat Suigetsu and Sasuke in separate sword fights. He can also use lightning style to amplify the power of his swords. He also has great physical strength, but the 8 tails is why he's so high on this list. He can use his chakra cloak to do things like hit Sasuke hard enough to open up his entire chest, and he can also use the 8 tails to escape Mangekyo Sharingan level Genjutsu, and he can turn himself into the 8 tails itself. In that form, he was able to use a tailed beast bomb to heavily scar the landscape around them. Some people like to rave about how he dominated Taka, but I disagree. At first they tried to take him on one by one, but once they started to work together, they had the upper hand on him. B even tried to run away right after they began to team up on him, and that's why he had to turn into the 8 tails. He did this despite that being forbidden by the Kage, so he obviously respected his opponents. Individually he stomped, but as a team he lost, and was lucky to escape Amaterasu. He did fatally wound Sasuke twice in that fight, which speaks volumes about how powerful he is. In base, he's very impressive, and as the 8 tails, he's on a completely different level.
What I seek is me!
At number 5 I have Naruto. Some Sasuke fans may be devastated by this, but Sage Mode Naruto is better than the Sasuke that fought B. Whether or not that's the case for Kage Summit Sasuke is an idea for another video. Anyway, Sage Mode Naruto is a force to be reckoned with. Without Sage Mode, he has his Toad summons, over Sengon, and his multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu. That's not enough to get him on the list, but Sage Mode is. His strength and speed increases dramatically, along with his recovery time. He can do everything that Jiraiya can do in Sage Mode, but Naruto can use 2 Rasen Shurikens before he runs out of Sage energy. Getting hit by one of these is a death sentence for everyone below him on this list, except for maybe B. Even when he runs out of Sage energy, he can use a Sage Mode Shadow Clone to regain Sage Mode, so with prep time, Naruto is even more powerful. He was able to defeat 5 paths of pain with not too much difficulty, and he was able to defeat the Diva path in a one-on-one. The Diva path wasn't trying to kill him though, so it takes away from this feat. Sage Mode Naruto is easily Hokage level and deserving of number 5 on this list. At number 4 I have Itachi. Itachi was able to fight Sasuke despite being almost fully blind and deathly sick. He is proficient in fire style and shurikens, but his Mangekyo Sharingan is what makes him number 4 on this list. His Tsukiyomi is really only counterable if you have an equal or superior dojutsu. Sasuke even fell victim, and he was fully aware how it worked, and he had a full Sharingan. The reason why Tsukiyomi isn't counterable is because if Itachi wanted, he could literally break your mind in less than a second, just like what he did to Kakashi. Even beyond that, he showed that he could just point at Naruto and put him under Genjutsu. Itachi was able to easily put Naruto and Sasuke under Genjutsu, and they are number 5 and number 8 on this list. Even if you have the ability to resist his Genjutsu, He has his Susanoo. Lowballing his Susanoo means that it can shield him well from Kirin, which is insane. The Yadomir is supposedly indestructible, however, it's likely that Kirin destroyed it in my opinion. He also has the Totsuka blade, which made light work of Orochimaru's Hydra transformation. He was also able to hit Orochimaru with it so fast that Orochimaru couldn't even react by moving. He even has Amaterasu, which was fast enough to catch Sasuke. That speaks for itself. Overall, Itachi is a prodigy that is insanely powerful and also has some insane feats. Some of you may argue that Sagewood Naruto should be higher than Pain because he beat him, but that's not really the case. The Diva Path wasn't operational when Naruto was first summoned to the Konoha, and once he was, he quickly pinned Naruto. If Nagato really wanted to, he could have killed Naruto while he was pinned. Moving on from that, Pain has a highly unique arsenal. Nagato can control 6 dead bodies all with different abilities. There was the Animal Path, which had a diverse amount of animal summons, the Preta Path, which could absorb ninjutsu, and the Asura Path, which had the power to turn its entire body into a weapon. There was also the Naraka Path, which could repair all the passive pain, the Human Path, which could read minds and rip souls out of their bodies, and of course, the Diva Path. The Diva Path made the Leaf Village a crater with Almighty Push. Let that sink in for a minute. As soon as he was able to regain his powers, he made light work of Sagebone Naruto and his toads. Even beyond that, he was able to use Planetary Devastation to almost fully restrain the Ninetales. Not only are the passive pain a matchup nightmare, but the Diva Path has immense power and was able to defeat Sagebone Naruto very easily.
We're just going to have to finish this some other time.
That's a Sharingan.
At number 2, I have quote-unquote Madara. A lot of people thought he was Obito at the time, but we'll just make this spot a tie, I guess, since both the legend of Madara and the masked Madara were very powerful. The legend goes that Madara could control the Ninetales back in the day, and Minato confirms that the masked Madara could control the Ninetales too. That alone puts them very high on the list, but there are still more feats and abilities to cover. The masked Madara could become untouchable, and there seemed to be no limit to this. Sasuke couldn't even blitz him, and Team 7 and Team 8 couldn't do anything to him either. He also was able to mysteriously survive an Amaterasu, and that's also impressive. No one below him can really hope to do anything to him, except for maybe Itachi, but that's a whole other video by itself. Masked Madara showed that he could phase through any attack, and even if an attack hit him, he could survive an Amaterasu. Before number 1, I'd like to mention our honorable mentions. Orochimaru is first, and this may be devastating to Orochimaru fans. I think he's very close, but just not stronger than Deidara and Sasori. Kakazu also barely missed the list. I feel like he's slightly overrated, but still very close to the top 10. Another person that's really close is Gaara, but he's not quite there. Kisame and Guy are also 2 that come to mind, but at this point in the series, they hadn't shown much. It was clear they had a lot of potential, but we didn't know enough to put them on the list. There was also Hiruzen, who also showed a lot of potential, but at 70, I'm not sure if he was worthy of making this list. If we were to rank young Hiruzen, I may or may not put him above Jiraiya. And then lastly, we have Minato. When he described the Ninetales attack, he says that masked Madara was controlling the Ninetales from the shadows, and doesn't really say that he fought him directly. Even if he did, we know who survived, so putting him above masked Madara is suspect. He showed in Kakashi's backstory to have really high potential though, but we don't know much about him, so it's better we let someone else in the top 10. And at number 1, I have Hashirama. We know that Hashirama defeated Madara with the Ninetales at the Valley of the End, so that's why he's number 1. Placing Minato would have been too difficult, but the information we have makes it clear that Hashirama is number 1. This information makes it apparent that Orochimaru's Edo Tensei was pretty weak, actually. Looking at the sample Orochimaru showed us, though, Hashirama appeared to have a great amount of physical strength, and his wood style looked good too. That's all I can really say about that, though. Beating number 2 on this list and the Ninetales at the same time easily makes you number 1. Other people like Minato and Hiruzen were too hard to rank, so I decided to give them an honorable mention instead. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. Comment something if you have something to say, and thank y'all for watching, and I guess I'll see y'all next time.